Hello and welcome to Practical Intuition with Kay. This is the show where we are always working to help you choose from your heart and really enjoy your experience of life. And today I am very excited to have with me Gary Marcus Judge, who is, well, actually, it's funny. I forgot to say, I'm Kay. Hi, I'm Kay. I'm a coach, I'm an artist, I'm an adventurer, and on my adventure, I have crossed paths with this wonderful gentleman, Gary Marcus Judge. And I really wanted to bring him to you because he's got such a wonderful sort of story and journey of discovery for himself. And he shares about it in his autobiography, which is called Free to Fly. Um, and Gary, I'm just really, really glad to have you here along with us today. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you for having me on board. I'm just here to share my journey. Really, we've all got exciting stories to recount and to tell, but I think it just helps, help each other along the way.
Mm, mm.
And before you asked me if there were any questions that I would feel uncomfortable answering, and I said no because I think I was very brave and courageous, and I fought my demons to publish my autobiography. And in that, anything that I had to hide came out. And I think that's why I gave it the title Free to Fly, because it was such a burden that I'd been carrying around for so many years. And now I really feel a completely different person.
Wow. Okay. Can you say the name of your autobiography in Italian, which is your adopted country?
Sure, sure, sure. So the book it's in English is called Free to Fly,
Mm,
and in Italian is Libero di volare.
mm, mm.
Because the reason I wrote it in Italian too, because I live in Italy, it's my adopted country. I've been here 25 years. I'm originally from the UK, but for love, I moved to Italy, got married, had 3 children, got a lovely family, and so here I am. So I wrote the book in Italian and in English for everyone who knows me.
Wow. Um, oh, I feel like there's so many directions or so many questions I have. And what came up immediately when you first started speaking was about I got curious if exhilaration is a value for you or is something that you cultivate in your life. And the reason I ask is because the way that you started speaking about your book really, I felt that like you were basically like, well, I'm on this journey and I'm going to be sharing it and things are going to come up and that's what's happening. And like there's a sort of woohoo about that. And I'm wondering if that's part of your journey, exhilaration.
Uh, the book. I mean, if you ever pick it up, I wrote it in phases of my life, from 0 to 10, from 10 to 17, then from 17 to 30. So I broke it down into different phases of my life.
Mm.
And sometimes I look back on that story, and I don't even recognize myself in that book anymore. And I ask myself, did I really do that? Seriously, is that me? And sometimes I find myself talking to my children about, because obviously we live in a completely different era to where I was and where I came from, and the book will tell you about this. And sometimes I have to share this with them, even though they're so detached from all of that, from my story. But it brings me back down to a child's level, and I feel that that's the real Gary. The Gary
Mm.
that in the journey, and it's a story. It's adventurous story, and of course, sometimes I feel exhilarated by it, because there were moments in there when I was carefree and I had no responsibilities. I wasn't an entrepreneur. I wasn't a father or a husband. I just had myself to look after, and so I went with the winds.
Yeah.
The wind took me left, took me right, and it brought me here to Italy, and here I stayed. So
Mm.
yeah, it was an exhilarating ride, and still is now, because I'm a more grounded, more sort of aware of things now than I was in the past.
Mm. Can you talk a little bit more about that awareness?
Yeah, that awareness of knowing when to stop, knowing when to say no, knowing where to invest myself, energy, money, attention, love,
Mm.
knowing what I want and how much I'm willing to give in that exchange, whether it's a friendship or whether it's a love or whether it's a business, or whether it's community or voluntary work and all sorts of things that I do, that I now have more idea of more of to gauge really how much I give of myself
Mm.
compared to the past where I didn't know and I'd give everything or nothing.
Mm. So there was a real like it's either this or that. And now there's a little bit you're living into
Yeah,
the middle
yeah,
areas a bit more.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and so in the past there was a lot of disappointments, lots of disillusionments, lots of anger, because it was like my way or the highway, or I'll give you 100% K, but I want 100% back from you. So there was never anything unconditional. Everything was conditional.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so when I say unconditional, everything was conditional relationships, conditional love, conditional, everything was conditional. And I couldn't get out of that spiral. It was everything was an exchange. It was nothing given just for the sake of giving for love or for myself.
Mm. I think that's a really interesting point. That's certainly been a part of my journey is the understanding that like it is things are of value even when they're not being sort of like traded or with things are of value when there's no expectation of something returning, but instead just a genuine gift. Yeah.
But I think it's hard work because I think the real unconditional love or giving I've only found with my children.
Mm.
As that, I would say I have unconditional love for them. But I'm working on the unconditional kindness and the unconditional connections that now I'm trying to sort of grow even through being on your show today, Kate, and having my own webinar and so on. So I'm trying to do that unconditional contribution where I don't want anything back,
Mm.
or the unconditional connection. I'm not connecting to you because I want something from you. Um, so I'm in a different sort of different phase of my life where I hope to say I'm a little bit more wiser because I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, and so I hope as you get older you become wiser, more mature.
Mm. And as you sort of have experiences too, I'm wondering if I'd love to kind of if you could take us back a little bit or even a lot. When there was expectations, when there were, conditional kindness, for example, conditional things like, were there moments like that or experiences like that that kind of got you to say, oh, maybe there's something else I could be doing or practicing or trying.
No, I came from a background where it was like the survival of the fittest.
Mm-hmm.
And so at a very early age, I had to understand that I had to stand on my own 2 feet, and I couldn't rely on other people. And
Mm-hmm.
so everything was an exchange. I was very cautious about people around me, very wary what people wanted from me. At 17, I was in a man's world, and I went into the Navy when I was 17 years old. So I had to grow quickly, and love and all that was put to one side because you grow up, you man up.
Mm. Mm.
And so that made me very tough and very cynical, maybe as well, a little bit of the world around me. And so I didn't really have the awareness or the tools to talk about unconditional kindness. Everything was, what do you want? Why are you being good to me?
Mm.
Why are you inviting me into your world? What do you want?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I
So
can, I
that
can,
was
he-
me.
I can hear it. Like I can, and in your body language and stuff too. Like when we're, what, what is sort of nurtured into us, um, what we receive, right? It can be really hard to distinguish that from like empirical reality. And uh, when if it's survival of the fittest and you got to man up and you can't, it's got to be an exchange. There's nothing given for the sake of giving. It makes perfect sense that you would, that the way that you lived your life would be like, well, what's this person like, what's their interest in this, or what have I got to give to receive this kindness, even, or something like that. Yeah.
When I met my wife, okay, and we are completely different, two different souls completely. Okay. I'd arrived in Italy, and I'd been traveling around the world for a year before that, and with a backpack, long hair, hippie, really just, oh, I'm just going with the wind, wherever it takes me. And I met this woman, this young girl studying at university, and she threw me, but she wasn't a beauty or a model or whatever physically, but she threw me from her like her innocence.
Mm-hmm.
I tell her that even today, if she listens to this, she'll agree with you. And I said that the thing that hit me was your innocence. I said, I've been around the world, and I arrived here, and I saw this person like this, and so unconditionally kind to me. I was like, what do you want from me?
Mm.
And so I couldn't push that away. I couldn't push this kindness of hers and her family towards me. I couldn't push it away.
Wow.
And so that scared me. And so when that scared me, it also attracted me. It's like attraction, fatal attraction. It was like attracted me, but it scared me. And at the beginning, I tried to fight it because I said, well, let's just have a short story. Then I go back on my travels. I was heading towards Japan and whatever. And, but that, 25 years.
Wow. And it's interesting because I think about what we fear also being sort of the flip side of that is like what we most want. What we most fear is also kind of what we most want. And
Yeah. I think we came together, these two stars colliding or whatever it was, at a phase where I was very angry with the world because maybe I didn't have what I think I deserved, not of my own fault. I was also looking for stability because I was a rolling stone, and I was looking for love and kindness and recognition and all that kind of stuff. Like, someone just to put an arm around me and just say, it's okay.
mm.
And I didn't have that. I was because I pushed people away. I'm not saying that it was me pushing people away because I was scared of them.
Yeah. Well, it really brings up a question for me. What was it about your wife when you met her that allowed your defenses to sort of be set aside so that you could really feel that and be okay with it?
It took a while. It really did take a while.
Mm-hmm.
Even after we got married, after the first week, she'll tell you, I said, I think I've made a mistake.
Really?
Really. After a week of marriage, I said to her, I think I've made a big mistake here. This is not for me. And she continued giving me this kindness, this attention, and this love. And I didn't know how, and so we'd have these arguments, and I'd want to leave, and I'd pack my bag, and I want to go, and I didn't know where I was going to go, but I was going to go. And this all stopped when my first child came along, my
Mm-hmm.
daughter. When she came along, then we had other two. I've got three children. The first daughter came along that actually brought in unconditional love, and it brought more stability, and it calmed me down.
Mm. Wow. That's really well. And I think like celebrating you for um the courage to stay, even when that bag was packed, even when, you know what I mean? Um and for both of you, I think in that relationship, that's it feels like when someone is like way out of their comfort zone and really on the edge, um, it takes courage both to stay and then to bring that kindness that she brought to sort of, you know, continue inviting you in, I guess is what's coming to mind. And it takes two, obviously. So there was both of each of you are inviting the other one in your ways, right? Like to stay together.
Yeah, because she would say to me, "But where do you think you're going?" And I would say, "I don't know, but it's not here. I've got to go somewhere else." And she would say, "But you've got nowhere else to go." And she was right,
Mm,
because I didn't have anywhere else to go. I didn't, and home was wherever my clothes were, wherever my backpack was. I didn't have a home
mm, mm. Except for the one that you created as a family.
as a family. So before that, I could have been anywhere.
You know what's coming to mind if I can share? Um, I have a colleague named Andrew Moss. He's like you're reminding me a little bit of him right now, and there's a story that he shares um about years and years ago. He used to be a sports coach. He used to coach Olympic athletes, and while he was doing that, his his life was sort of falling apart around him. Like and it just like and maybe this is part of it too. He understands that he was creating those conditions, right? And there's this he shares this story about one time he was invited to by a really wonderful, super famous, apparently Australian swim coach to go and spend a couple of weeks with him and be mentored by him, really closely mentored. And in that time, what came up was an opportunity to work as a coach really close to where this guy lived and be mentored by him for a longer period of time, etc. And so they go and they view the space and they talk to their people, and he's all excited because like, wow, this is my life now. And on the way back to where he was staying, he happened to see the sign for the town, and it was called Runaway Bay. And he was like, I can't do this. It is wrong for me to be running away from, like, he realized that what he was doing was running away from all of the stuff that had been that he didn't want to deal with. And instead what he did was he went back home to Canada and he dealt with the stuff that needed to be dealt with so that he could sort of have a life that felt aligned with his values and his, you know, well, I guess I'll just say his values. And it's so interesting because I don't know, that's coming up for me with your journey a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's those little synchronicity, isn't it? It's those little messages that, again, they come along, and you've got to, if you're aware and you're present, you can take it in and try to understand what is this, what's happening here, what is
Mm,
this tell me. But unfortunately, we live in this automatic pilot. Everyone's run here, run there, and then you don't see all those signs. And until someone says something to you, or it's too late.
mm,
But it is just keeping yourself, not keeping your radar on, keeping keeping everything on all the time. So taking all those signs in, looking around, and yeah, just being mindful, being present.
yeah. I mean, really cultivating that awareness was what was in my head, and being present
Yeah.
is a huge part of that, right? Yeah. When I'm really curious what it's been like for you to be a dad, be a spouse, and build a business.
Ooh, a lot of stuff there. Well, I got married and opened my business in the same month.
Mm,
So it was 1998, June of 1998. I got married and I opened my school, my business, just me with just one or two students. And so you can imagine I just piled it all on. Gary is one of those like all or nothing. That's what I was. You know,
mm.
everyone said, oh shit, you're getting married and you've got a honeymoon and you're going to open a business and you can't do everything. Yes, I can. You know, I can do it. I can do everything. It's like, oh, I can do. I'm Superman. So I wasn't an entrepreneur. I didn't have a clue. I didn't speak the language.
Mm.
We were talking about opening a business in a foreign country. So I didn't speak the language, didn't really know much about the laws, the contracts, and so on. So you can imagine, I just threw myself in there and I'll deal with it because Gary is one of those, he would just deal with it. He's a problem solver.
Hmm.
And but I learned later on that that's not the way to go. But anyway, that was at the beginning. And just to give you an example, a story of it. Got the school, went into these premises because the premises was rented by this lady who said, yeah, okay. So we moved in, signed all the paperwork and with the lawyers and all that kind of stuff. Fine, great. Only to discover that the rental contract ran out in 2 months' time.
Oh,
But only found out later, once I'd actually exchanged money and contracts, whatever, that the premises where the school was in 2 months' time would have to be given back to the owner.
oh my goodness.
Exactly. And it was I think in July or August, I found this out in August. And the school year was beginning in September.
Mm.
So I had a piece of paper saying that I had a business, but I didn't have anything at all. So and I was married, and my wife was saying we should be going on a honeymoon as well in that time. And I said, listen, we can't do all of this. And so again, running around trying to find premises, furnishing the premises, getting all the communication out. Courses are beginning in middle of September, October, because it was the moment that when the courses begin is in either the middle of September or you go into January. So if you miss that bus,
Yeah.
you miss that, and it restarts again in January. So it meant losing like 4 months business.
Wow.
And so that was the entrepreneur that I wasn't.
Mm.
Husband, I never considered myself a husband. I never did. I always said to my wife, listen, while we love each other, I love you, you love me, fine, we're together. When that finishes, I'm out of here.
Mm.
And I told her that. I said, and so she would just say, what are you saying? Where are you going to go? And who's going to want you and all this kind of stuff. Okay. That was that was a husband. Father, that really hit me because I hadn't had a very good childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had these traumas in my childhood and things like, nursery rhymes and how to hold a baby, and I didn't have any of that. Didn't know what to do when the baby arrived. But I fell in love. I fell in love with her. And I have to say that she took out all the fear, all the worries, all the negativity, all the things that I encountered in the past just melted when she was in my arms. And so I did everything that I had to do to become a father, i.e., get the nursery rhymes, get the songs, get everything, change her, wake up during the night. I took over completely.
Wow.
And my wife at the time, had a bit of a postnatal depression. So it was important that I was there at the time. And we got through that. And but me and my daughter, we got a very special bond because it was me becoming a father who I wasn't a father, but I was becoming a father. And so it was a learning process, let's say.
Mm. And I mean, just reflecting back, it sounds like there were a lot of fears, and what really helped you set those fears aside was love.
Yeah.
Yeah. How
At
beautiful.
the end of the day, Kay, whatever we do, it finishes off with love. Whatever
Mm,
we do, at the end of our journey, wherever we will be, we'll finish with love.
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And well, actually, I really would love to hear what happened about the premises.
Oh, yeah, the premises was like we didn't have anything, and so running around everywhere trying to find premises, the suitable premises that would be available at the right price, and getting it furnished, getting it all up and done and running for the middle of September. But I did it because that's one of my characteristics, one of my values. I'm a determined person. When I have an objective, I will put everything and I will get it.
Mm,
Um, if I don't have my objective, I'm quite easygoing. I don't want it. I don't need it. It's not for me. And I'm happy with that. But when I suddenly decide I'm going to do something, um, just an example is a few years ago, I picked up a book by Robin Sharma,
mm-hmm.
The 5 a.m. Club. The
Mm,
5 a.m. Club. I was going through a phase where I wasn't really in control of my life or in control of how I wanted my life to be. And so it felt like I was just continually overwhelmed by everything. I was overwhelmed at work, overwhelmed in the family. Everything was just getting too much on top of me. And so I became a very angry man because the reaction was fight instead of flight. I began to fight that.
mm,
And then I picked up this book by Robin Sharma. I don't know why, where it came across me. It says the 5 a.m. Club. And I thought, what is the 5 a.m. Club? So I went and read through it, studied up, and it said about waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning. And I thought, 5 a.m. in the morning. Come on. I used to get up at like 7, a mad rush, quick breakfast, take the kids to school, traffic, try to steal people's parking spaces, cutting people up to get in the traffic in front of them. It was me against everyone.
mm,
So I read this book, and this book was saying, you wake up at 5 in the morning and you give yourself an hour. Let's call it the holy hour. It's an
mm,
hour for you. Why at 5 a.m. in the morning? Because at 5 a.m. in the morning, no one is around to disturb you. There's no messages, no phone calls. There's nothing else you can do at 5 in the morning. What can you do at 5 in the morning? And I thought, oh, maybe it makes sense, but 5 in the morning, let's try it. So the book actually prepares you really well, prepares you to confront this 5 a.m. hurdle.
mm,
I.e., get your clothes ready, because in the morning you can't be shuffling around looking for your clothes. You have to have it ready. You have to go and do this, do that. And I took it on. I said, let's do it. I took the challenge on. I did it the first, terrible. The second day, terrible. And it went on, but I kept saying, I set the alarm. My wife would say, yo, are you going crazy? What's the matter with you? Sleep. And I would put the alarm and I would just creep out of bed, like, get out and go and do my stuff. And I thought I was going crazy as well. But I stuck to it, and it's become my habit. Maybe not 5, but 5:30. I'm always up by 5:30.
mm,
And I will go into my 20 minutes of exercise, 20 minutes of silence, meditation, whatever it is, and 20 minutes of learning something new or reading something, read, or listen to a podcast or something like that. So my morning, every morning begins like that.
Mm.
I'll do exercises, whether it's physical running or cycling or yoga or stretching or whatever it is, 20 minutes. I'll do 20 minutes of meditation, sitting in silence or listen to some sort of mantra or a chant or whatever it is, or just nothing completely. And then 20 minutes, I will listen to a podcast, or I might read a book, or I might even read some pages from the Bible.
Mm.
And it's become my anchor. It became my anchor. Just to say, when we talk about, like, if I find I'm determined, if I have an objective, I will do everything possible to get there. And
Mm.
so when I had the school and we had to find those premises, I did everything that I had to do to get that. And then later on in life, now the 5 a.m. club, because I needed to actually stabilize my ship, which was
Mm.
which was just reeling left, right, and center. And the book came along. Maybe synchronicity was just there, and I picked it up, and that's what I needed.
Mm. I mean, it's so interesting because it sounds like what motivates you, you will go, you will overcome any obstacle, you will do what it takes. And something about wanting that ship to be stable was very motivating for you in that moment,
Yeah,
in those moments. And it's
yeah. Because I think the worry was always, I had something very precious that I never had. 3 kids,
mm,
and I didn't even know, one kids came along, brilliant, and then it was like, oh, you can't be this, hey, this way, that way. You can't be that kind of person. You are now, I don't want to say responsible, but at least you're a role model, or
mm,
they're looking up to you. And whereas before I would just lose my head and I was like, all over, it was all external reactions. They brought peace. Yeah, they brought peace to me.
mm. Well, I mean, it sounds like you knew. I'm really celebrating you because something inside of you knew that what they needed was you to be peaceful. They needed a dad who was, you know, someone that you really wanted to become. And you, it sounds like you took the steps to do that. And you're even today you're reaping these benefits, right? Like
It wasn't an easy journey. It was, even with the children, there were still many moments where my rage or anger was triggered,
mm,
and that was all to do with the way I saw life.
mm,
And so, though they were there, uh, I remember a situation where my wife said that, Gary, we can't deal with this anger of yours. But it wasn't directed at them, it was directed at everything around us.
mm, mhm,
So we were in a cocoon, but everything around us I was just ready. I was on a fight mode all the time. And it didn't help us create friendships, or didn't help us create as a family, I meant. And
yeah,
so I have this story. My wife said, I can't remember how many years ago. It's about 10 years ago. Not that long, but 10 years ago. And after a major bust up, where it was like, when you have rage, it goes from zero and it builds up and it builds up, and then suddenly this demon takes over and you don't even know who you are anymore.
mm,
That person who suddenly comes out is like, whoa. It's like, like you've got a bushfire.
mm,
That even you yourself can't control that because something else is taken over. And my wife said, "Okay, that's it. We can't do this because the children, not me. I can put up with that, but the children, no. So you're gonna have to go to a therapist." Um, First step to confronting anything is to admitting it, right?
mm,
And I didn't want to admit that I had any issues, because I blamed parents, I blamed my past, I blamed everyone else, but not Gary. And she said, listen, I think we've come to the end of this relationship, seriously, if you don't get this under control. So I fixed an appointment. I said, okay, we'll do this. I fixed an appointment, and a very embarrassing because the therapist wanted my name, wanted my profession, wanted my telephone number, my address, all the details to pick the appointment. And I felt like, oh my God, now I'm just saying that I'm a criminal. I'm saying that I am this, whatever that is, a rage guy, angry guy. I didn't think I was, but I had to say that. Fixed the appointment, and I didn't go. I fixed the appointment, got in the car, went outside, went to this near the therapist's study, but I didn't go in. Went back home, and I couldn't face my wife because she said, well, how did the appointment go? I said, I didn't go. So again, but then I realized that I had to do some work on myself. And that's where studying anger management. And so again, understanding what it was, and everything I read, everything I watched, everything I heard regarding this subject was me. And I thought, oh my God, someone's been observing me for the last, because that's me.
Yeah.
And so that was a big wake up call, but I got that under control as well.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that journey. I think it could be very relatable to a lot of folks listening. And I know, like, it immediately makes me think of my journey with ADHD, which I was diagnosed with ADHD last April, and I'm 52 years old, and I've always had it. And I sort of used to have inklings, like not as a kid, but as an adult, especially working with children. A lot of my career was early childhood, and then these last 10 years or 9 years or so, I've been working with their parents, and I've always been like, it's so interesting how similar the things I'm telling the parents are, like things going on in here, but I didn't put it together at all. And then I watched a documentary called The Disruptors, and I watched it in support of one of my kids who went on a journey of wanting to discover, did they have ADHD? And they discovered that they did. And then, I have a friend who was like, this is a really good movie for parents to watch when you get a diagnosis like this in the house. And I was expecting it to be sort of like, how do I support my child? And instead what happened was I saw myself on that screen. Like, I couldn't believe all the ways that I have ADHD and didn't tell myself, and didn't, and the journey for me has been a real understanding and I think embracing of it. Like, maybe you would or wouldn't say, I don't know, that anger is a superpower, but I feel like understanding myself, that's been a real gift and a real superpower, is to know, at least to know, like, I've got these operating instructions now that I didn't have a year ago.
Yeah.
And what you're describing, it like seeing yourself in what you're reading and what you're learning about that I know that experience from the inside. That's quite a powerful experience.
Yeah, it's a very humbling experience as well, because when you see all of that, which you've been denying all your life because you've always blamed everyone else and everything around you, and it's not me. And then you come to face to face with that reality, and you either run away and you put your head under in the sand, or you do something. And I decided that I would do something.
Wow. And as our time has flown so incredibly quickly. I'm curious, like, where are you now? Before we started recording, you said this lovely expression, which was the journey to understand your way. And I think way was sort of methodology, but I feel like another way to understand way is wayfinding. Like,
finding is the way is your way home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thinking about what's this all about? I ask myself, my journey, I've come all the way here, and I think, what's this all about? Where am I going? And all, those kind of questions you ask yourself. And it's the question is just understanding more about yourself, and understanding other people and how you want to be in the world, and how you want to come to the end as well.
Mm.
If we ask the question, like, in some of the public speaking courses that I do sometimes, is like, start with the end in mind. Start with the end in mind. So how do you want to see the end? And then work back.
Mm.
Because if you do it that way, you're going to do the right things, because that's how you want the end to finish. That's how
Yeah.
you. So there it is. So before you start thinking, say, how do I want it to finish when I'm 100 years old, or 70 years old, or 80 years old? Okay, and then. But I do. I also do, because I'm a business coach, and I work as a business strategy coach. So when I talk to some of my clients, CEOs or entrepreneurs, company owners, so I say, how do you see that speech that you want to give? Or how do you see that meeting? Or how do you see this, unfolding? And they'll say, well, I see myself standing up there and applauding, and, I've given a good speech, and I've got my points across. And thinks, okay. From there, you work back and just say, okay, well, and that's life too, I think.
Yeah. Well, it speaks to an intentionally created future. I think, like, when you talk about putting yourself forward in time and envisioning, how is this ending? How do we want this to end? Whether it's a meeting or whether it's our life, right? Like, and then working back, it shows us the way in such a beautiful, creative way,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, just ask yourself, how do you want to be seen at the end of this journey, whatever the journey is, even an illness, even losing your job, or a breakup of a marriage, or whatever it is. How do you want to be seen at the end of that? Because we all have these traumas, and we all have these experiences. Instead of getting lost in the emotions and the experiences, just say, well, how do I want to be seen? Because it's going to end. This is going to end. Whatever it is, in one way, it's going to end. Whatever it is. How do you see yourself at the end of that? Have you destroyed everything and everyone in the process, or in some way you've maintained your dignity, you've maintained yourself? And that's the question. When I get into difficult, I ask myself, so how are you going to be at the end of this? How are you going to be seen? You could lose everything, but how do you want to be seen? I want to be seen that I did my best. I want to be seen that I respected people. I want to be seen that I didn't just give up and run away. That's how I want to be seen.
Wow. Yeah.
Fine. Well, do everything that's necessary to be seen like that.
Well, it makes it makes the choices clear and obvious, right? Like, if my goal is to feel like they knew that I respected them at the end of this, then I am obviously not going to call them names or belittle them or whatever, right? Like, it gives you a really, really clear way to look at the choices in front of you and how you can react or respond. I think it's funny because I think when I think about reacting, sometimes my favorite reaction, or maybe even often, is to pause and then respond instead of jumping in with something, because I like to be able to, I don't know that I'm fully behind what I'm about to say or do. And then, I mean, I actually think this episode is going to end up being called An Intentionally Created Future with you, because that really feels like the journey of your life is to really see that and understand how your behavior can impact the world and the choices that you make. And, yeah.
I think it's a responsibility towards myself. it's a responsibility that I have to have, I towards myself at the end of any difficult situation. How do you want to be seen at the end? Because
Mm,
the experience is going to finish,
yeah.
and then accordingly, I behave.
Yeah. Very well said. How do I want to be seen at the end? I'm writing that down. Well, Gary, what a joy. And it's gone so quickly. What a joy to have you on the show. I'm really, really glad that we have connected. And
Uh,
this
Thank you for
this
inviting me, Jay. Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're so, so welcome. Listeners and viewers, you can find Gary Marcus Judge at his website, which is garymarcusjudge.com. We became connected in LinkedIn because we have a mutual friend. So that's kind of how that happened, which I really, really love. So you're findable in LinkedIn if anyone wants to find you over there. But the cool thing about garymarcusjudge.com is that's where folks can find Free to Fly. And also in Amazon, you can find that. And there's a new book coming out. Can you share a little bit about what's going on with the second one?
Well, the book's hopefully by the end. I worked on it today. I'm finding those moments to work on books because in the between running the school, the family, and so on, it's not so easy. I'm not a full-time writer.
Mm.
But I wanted to actually, if the first book was just like a confession, let's say, or my coming out or unloading this excess baggage, the second book, which is I'm writing on now, is to tell people what happened to me.
Mm.
And so by me actually putting all this stuff into practice, what we're talking about, unconditional kindness and love and connection and contribution, okay, I did all of that. Well, I've been doing all of that, and I'm still doing it now. But what effect has it had on me? And so I put all my insights into that, and I say, well, this is what happened to me. This is what I did, and this is what I can share with people. This is my journey.
Wow. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, wow. I don't know if you've ever heard of an author named Michael Singer. He's written one book was really, really important for me on my journey called Untethered Soul. And
Yeah.
then the second book that he wrote was called The Surrender Experiment. And so like the first one is sort of here are the principles, and the second one is here is my experience of this. Here's my journey. And like you know, it sounds similar to what it's obviously a little bit different because it's through the Gary Marcus Judge filter, which is wonderful. And it's sort of understanding your journey and how you got here, and then really being able to hear the story of that. That's wicked cool. That's wicked.
Well, I think there's a great initiative. I think in Sweden or in Denmark. I'm not sure. I read about this called the Human Library.
Mm.
The Human Library, where you you go into this library and you don't have books, but you have people. So you have stories of people where you're not a physical person, but you can have like I don't know Gary Marcus Judge on the shelf, and you pull out this coupon, and you can actually speak to Gary Marcus Judge for half an hour about his life.
Wow.
And then you could have another book, the Kay Locke story, and you pick it out and you look at it and say, oh, and you can contact Kay Locke and speak to her for half an hour about her life. And so it's a human library.
Wow, that is really cool. I've never heard of that before. That's really cool.
Actually, I applied for that. Actually, I was going to give my time, and I said, well, I could put myself out. I'd be willing to give someone half an hour of my time if they want to know my story. So you can have stories of humans. Everyone
Oh,
has a story.
yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. Ooh. Yes. So listeners, viewers, you can find Gary in the places we've already spoken about. Links are in the show notes for your website, Gary, for your book. And I am super grateful to everyone for listening and watching. I'm also really, really grateful to our producer, who is wonderful with audio and also happens to be the 26-time winner of the Husband of the Year award. He's Benjamin Culp, and he is superb. He's been, my life partner now for 26 years, and it's been really, really fun to have this experience. And the audio part of it has also been kind of a fun part of our journey. So, Ben, I'm really glad and grateful for you in my life and in what you do for our podcast, or this podcast. Yeah, thanks everybody for being here, for listening, and we will see you next time.